Time now for an in-depth look at the market news this afternoon, and for that I'm joined on the line by Dr. Kim Sei-wan, professor of economics at Ewha Womans University. Professor Kim, good to have you back on today. Thank you for making time.
Good afternoon, Devin.
Well, the Bank of Korea has now raised interest rates 2 months in a row for the first time since 2007. They decided to do this despite the dampening effect it could have on the economy. Why is that, and what do you make of this decision?
Finally, Bank of Korea hiked its key interest rate by 0.25% today. So its key interest rate became 1.75% as of today. This has been highly expected as Bank of Korea predicted this year's inflation could hit the highest level in 14 years amid soaring oil commodity and commodity prices. Bank of Korea has emphasized that its top priority is to keep inflation in check before it gets out of control, though it remains cautious that rising borrowing costs could put a damper on economic recovery. Today's raised market, the third rate hike this year after 0.25% increases in both January and April. Bank of Korea will raise the key interest rate further along with U.S. Fed's over 2% key interest rate hikes until next year. But Bank of Korea did not take the big step or 0.5% rate hike today.
No, they didn't. And also out of the BOK today, it's raised its forecast for inflation. It's also lowered its forecast for GDP growth, partly because of the slowdown in China and the soaring commodity prices you mentioned. What do you make of these projections from the BOK?
Along with raising its key interest rate today, Bank of Korea revised upward its inflation outlook for this year to 4.5% from 3.1% projected 3 months earlier. I have to say that this inflation forecast revision over 1% up is a huge and rare adjustment. The forecast could be the fastest price growth since 2008, when prices grew 4.7% on annual basis. Bank of Korea's economic outlook prediction was also lowered from 3% to 2.7% projected 3 months earlier. Korean economy has been on the recovery track thanks to robust export, and expectations are growing for a rise in consumption thanks to recently eased social distancing rules amid a lap-up in coronavirus infections. Korean economy was expected to be fully recovered from the pandemic with previous over 3% annual growth. But updated 2.7% growth means this full recovery will be delayed until next year.
Right, all those numbers going in the right direction, but neither of those two figures they updated today are going in the right direction. Still, the BOK is expected to take several more of these so-called big steps on rates this year, 50 basis points each time. Minutes from last month's meeting at the Fed, that is, rather, show most members do support that. What came out of the Fed minutes released on Wednesday?
Fed minutes, which was released yesterday, point to more rate hikes that go further than the market anticipates. According to minutes, not only did policymakers see the need to increase benchmark borrowing rates by 0.5%, but they also said similar hikes likely would be necessary at the next several meetings. They further noted that the policy may have to move past a neutral stance in which it is neither supportive nor restrictive of growth, an important consideration for central bankers that could echo through the economy. Overall, as the Fed is trying to pull down inflation running at a 40-year high, they will go for the biggest rate increase in 22 years until next year.
Right, and Professor, finally, the Fed minutes seem to be encouraging for investors. Stocks on Wall Street closed higher overnight, the NASDAQ by 1.5%. Korean stocks, though, today in the end closed lower. What's been the impact of these central bank moves on the markets?
U.S. stocks rose Wednesday after several retailers offered investors some optimism for this year's sales. And the release of minutes from the Federal Reserve most recent policy meeting signaled a few changes in the central bank's plan to fight inflation. The S&P 500 index rose 1%. The Nasdaq Composite also climbed 1.5%, which was a reversal from a sharp sell-off in tech stocks the day before. The Dow Jones Industrial also rose 0.6% yesterday. Before the announcement of a 0.25% interest rate hike, Bank of Korea, domestic markets were rising today. But as soon as the key interest rate news arrived at the market, both of KOSPI and KOSDAQ retreated. KOSPI lost 0.2% and KOSDAQ also lost 0.1% today.
Right. Well, Professor, we're going to have to leave it there for today. Thank you, as always, for coming on. We appreciate your insights.
Thank you very much.